My name is Omai Nyarandi. I'm the Executive Secretary of Northern Corridor Transit and Transport Coordination Authority. Northern Corridor Transport and Transit and Transport Coordination Authority, NCTTCA, was formed in 1985 through an agreement at that time of 5 member countries, which included Kenya, Burundi, DRC, Uganda, who the common purpose was that they use the port of Mombasa as either for import or exports. The agreement eventually included South Sudan in 2012. The main purpose of this secretariat is to coordinate movement of cargo and persons from the port of Mombasa to all these member countries, which are 6 at the moment. The agreement mandates this secretariat to do policies in conjunction with the governments of these countries to ensure there is smooth flow, especially of cargo, and to ensure that the cost of doing business along the corridor is low, and the time that it takes to transit through these member countries is also reduced, which will lead to less and less cost of doing business. That's the mandate of this NCTTCA. One of the mandate of Northern Corridor is to make it economically viable. And during the advent of COVID-19, there was containment measures, and people are not moving from one county to another. Though goods and cargo was allowed to move, but the businesses along the corridors closed down. If you could go through from Mombasa to Malaba, you will find that the businesses along the corridor were shut down, resulting in a lot of economic turmoil. When you look at the border points, they were choked up because of piling of cargo and the trucks. There was a lot of delays, and these delays were brought about by the COVID certificate, which needed to be gotten before crossing the border. So in general, there was a lot of delays, and the delays for a corridor means more making cargo and the cost of goods eventually to the final consumer being expensive. As the Northern Corridor Secretariat, immediately COVID-19 kicked on and the containment measures were put in place, we immediately started virtual meetings with all the border points and the stakeholders of the corridor, talking about all the borders, be it Busia, Malaba, Elegu, which is the border between Uganda and South Sudan, and all the others. We started virtual meetings with all the stakeholders, be it customs officials, be it immigration. We used to hold meetings every Tuesday to iron out what issues were there. We even robbed in Ministry for Health to ensure that we try to have uniform policies of crossing the border. We also, with conjunction with Kenya Ports Authority and the county government of Mombasa, opened a COVID testing center at Miritini. It had a capacity of 80 persons, but we were able to upgrade it to 400 persons testing per day to ensure that all drivers that move to the port to pick cargo have a valid COVID test certificate, so that as they move to the border points, they are able to pass through quickly. We also started a campaign to sensitize all the people along the corridor that the drivers were not necessarily a menace, because what happened is that drivers were being stigmatized, that they are the ones who are COVID carriers. We started a program of sensitizing all stakeholders. we issued over 10,000 face masks to drivers with key messages telling the members of the public that drivers are one of us and they are doing essential work that is really necessary during this period of COVID-19. Together with other stakeholders like Trademark East Africa, we came up with a drivers app, which drivers could get the information of COVID testing, which even at the border points could be done instead of the physical document that was being printed. We came up with other plans to ensure that there were alternative transit routes. Instead of congesting Malaba only and Busia, we came up with alternative transit routes of Luahaha, which containers, especially empty containers, were diverted to those ones that are coming back to Mombasa, so that the queues at the border points were reduced. We stressed that we needed to go virtual on most of the meetings. We needed to go online so that most of the work could be done online, not physically. Those are some of the measures that we came up with during this COVID-19. There are various measures we've done to facilitate trade along the corridor. We have been advocating for shorter transit routes passing through Holili Taveta to shorten the routes to some of the countries like Burundi and Rwanda. We've done a lot of studies on the sensitization of the use of SGR and intermodal transfer from SGR at Naivasha to the member countries. We have advocated for establishment of roadside stations so that drivers can have a rest along the road for safety reasons and to create businesses along the road which is more organized. Following that, we have been able to finance a feasibility study for establishment of a roadside rest station at Kikope, which is in Nakuru County, which should start very soon, where truckers and even members, private motorists can stop and have a rest, refreshment, and even sleep as they proceed with the journey. We've done studies on safety along the corridors and mapped out black spots throughout the entire corridor, more than 13,000 kilometers. And currently we are in the process of implementing, together with several agencies, road agencies, to implement mitigation measures to reduce the number of road accidents along the corridor. We have mobilized funds through IFAD, more than $2 million, which is a COVID relief fund, which we are currently implementing to business communities, especially small traders along the corridor, which we are assisting them to start up their businesses which were lost during the COVID-19. As we speak now, the team is leaving next week to start meeting with those stakeholders, stakeholders in agriculture, in horticulture, cross-border trade, to ensure that we resuscitate some of their businesses. So there are a lot of engagement currently to try and make this corridor economically viable and be able to assist the member countries. The main lesson I would say from COVID-19 is that we don't have to be physically present or physically meet for us to transact business. And it came out that the use of IT is very important in reducing that human interactions. Remember, COVID-19, others were told to stay home, people are not visiting offices. But if we implement IT tools, especially on clearance, cross-border trade, and some of this business could move very quickly. And it also came out that the member countries, be it Kenya, Uganda, be it Rwanda, need to come together to have those uniform policies in containment, especially even if it's another disease, so that in future we are not caught off guard. It also came out that we need to involve more the ministries of health, something that we were not doing before. Most of our stakeholders have been in transport industry without caring about what the health issues are. But now it has come important that we need all to work together, have common policies, and be able to have smooth transfer of people and the cargo across the region. This corridor, when we look at the port of Mombasa, last year more than 30 million tons. It did 4.4 million tons in and out, but what passed through the corridor was like 32 million. But the corridor also has cargo originating from major cities, from Nairobi, from Kampala, passing through the corridor. So the countries should all have harmonized policies on how to develop the corridor. Alternative modes of transport, like the lake transport, inland waterways, are more cheaper and safe. When you look at transporting oil, and during this period of COVID, you could go to Malaba or Busia and find tankers queuing. Suppose there was a big accident. And yet, we can use our lake transport to transfer such fuel from Kisumu to our regional countries. So the countries should come together and try to develop these facilities concurrently in terms of not only road, the inland waterways, the railways, so that we move to safer modes of transport. We also need to look at more so how to make the corridor green, because a green corridor is more efficient. When you look at issues to do with climate change, issues to do with vehicle load control, how much should we carry in the corridor? Looking at issues to do with eco-driving, how do we save more fuel by driving safely in compliance with the environment? So going future, the government need all to work concurrently to ensure that the corridor is more productive. We have currently carried out a study on transport needs assessment for the Republic of South Sudan, the countries in tatters, especially in terms of transport. And the countries, the regional countries in EAC now should see how to come together as a block, even when asking for aid, because the better the numbers, the better they are listened to. And even when they want to do development, coming out as one region makes more sense as it becomes cheaper in terms of when getting loan from development partners. So more cohesiveness is needed in terms of our member countries who use the Northern Corridor region, mode of transport. As EAC, and now we have a new member of DRC who has always been a member of our Northern Corridor, we need to be better prepared in future. Not only should COVID reoccur or any other emergencies. I'm looking at going borderless. With the African continent of free trade, we need to see how better the EAC region can trade among ourselves. How can we have a same regime in terms of taxes? How can we reduce some of the taxes and the non-tariff barriers along the road? Currently, we have two corridors, major corridors. We have the Northern Corridor, which originates from the port of Mombasa, and we have the Central Corridor, starting from Tanzania, all serving these 7 member countries. The two corridors perform differently. But if the countries came together and ensures that we have same policies, same taxes, put more emphasis on infrastructure development, put more emphasis on soft infrastructure in terms of IT and others within the borders, which we are saying we should have things like a green channel whereby particular essential commodities will pass once they have been weighed in one and inspected in one location, to reduce that transit time during such emergency. Essentially, that's what I'd advise, that moving forward, we need to start moving out of the physical meetings, the physical transactions, and move more to IT, where you can transact from where you are sitting and the cargo will just move along the corridor. We don't need to be stamping those documents, which increase that physical interaction.